So I can do that. It's going to have Russo stand up every time.
Buffalo. I'm KJ Zelzinski, joined with Justin Cejak once again, Colton Pankowitz, Deshaun Francois. Thank you guys for joining us very much. If you like what we do here, make sure to check out BuffaloSportsInsider.com. That way you too can stay up to date on everything sports, everything Buffalo. Follow our social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everything we got. Just go ahead and follow it. That way you can just stay in touch with all of our content. Again, thank you very, very much. I'm excited to announce that we have a very special guest here today, Matt Beauvais, sports director over at Channel 7. Thank you very much for joining us. How you doing?
No, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I'm doing well.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, we're just going to kick off the show then with talking about our Week 2 recap of the Raiders-Bills game. That was a humongous difference from the first week. I mean, lead us through that, Justin. How are we talking about it?
Yeah, it really was night and day for both the offense and the defense. Even the special teams, no blunders there. Definitely a decrease in penalties. What are your thoughts on the game, Matt?
Well, it's what they needed, right? That first game was such a disaster in so many different aspects, and now, they bounce back in a big way. And I know that they said after the game that they didn't hear the noise. They don't pay attention to any of the things that people are saying about them. I think some of that's true, but at the same time, it's kind of nonsense, right? Like, you lost a game you should not have lost. You gave it away, essentially, with those 4 turnovers, and everybody needed to see, is this team for real? And they came out and they dominated an opponent that I think is at least okay. I don't think the Raiders are a disaster. I think they're going to be, a team that wins 7, 8, 9 games, somewhere in that realm. So to go out and do that to that team, I think is a really good sign that the Bills are still who we thought they were.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask too. And sorry, we're gonna be working through some audio issues here, but I wanted to ask too that a lot of people were shifting the blame and I mean saying that like maybe the Bills aren't as great as we thought they were. Obviously, we know at best that the Jets are a very good team. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, the Bills still have an elite quarterback, and they still have some elite playmakers on both sides of the ball. And when you combine that together, you should be talking about a team that is capable of going on a run. It's all about getting hot at the right time. Listen, the AFC East, I still think, even without Aaron Rodgers in the division and even with the Patriots at 0-2, I still think the division is competitive. I still think this is going to be a really, really tight race between the Bills and the Dolphins the entire season. And then the Jets, obviously, we know firsthand what their defense can do. So, yeah, I think that the Bills – it did not start how you would like, but it's all about the recovery. And, hey, 1-1, there are worse places to be.
Yeah, 100%. I think too. Again, when we're going back to the Raiders game, that opening drive. Yeah. Oh man, my heart stopped for a second because again, you're taking everything into account from last week, and then you're like, okay, Raiders score on the first drive, and Bills have to come back and answer, and it's a 3-and-out. So I definitely got scared at the start there too. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
Well, I came in with tempered concerns because Josh McDaniels isn't a rookie when it comes to calling up offensive plays. He came in and he scripted that drive pretty excellently, I would say. The use of Devontae Adams and the knowledge that Jimmy G can get the ball to him quite efficiently. They drove right down the field without even necessarily needing Josh Jacobs. Mm-hmm. So the testament once the Raiders was going to be, okay, let's see how we can do off-platform. And as we saw, they only mustered 3 more points the entire game. So the Bills' defense really shut them out, and I think that was a Raiders issue more so than the Bills falling apart there.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs finishes with negative yards, and it felt like the Bills did a good job originally with the Jets, kind of capping Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, and then there were just those huge burst plays that I thought I was still going to see with Jacobs, and just never kind of appeared.
I remember in the post-game conference in the Jets game, McDermott attested a lot of those run issues to gap integrity and misalignment, and I think we saw a lot of that fixed in this game against the Raiders. The defensive line controlled the entire motion of this game. Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, we talked about them a lot. They absolutely shut down Josh Jacobs and the Raiders.
Yeah, I want to ask you, Matt. I know again, for someone who's grown up in Buffalo, for a while, Buff State alum as well. Might as well shout it out since we're at Buff State recording this. How big is this win for Bills Mafia as well? Again, to kind of circle back to the community aspect of it.
I think it just allows everybody to breathe again this week, right? pins and needles for the last 6 days after that Monday Night Football game. And there were a lot of people talking about the Bills nationally that, hey, they're frauds. They're not a playoff team. Josh Allen isn't him. And I think that this win is kind of, the reminder that, like, yeah, they're still a really good team. And yes, they still have a quarterback who is capable of winning any game that he plays in. So, yeah, I think it was a big win. I think it was a needed win. The home opener, legitimately, one of the best days of the year if you're a football fan, if you're a Bills fan. And a lot of that is dictated on a win or a loss. It's an awesome day until 1 o'clock. But then if you lose, nobody really cares anymore. If you win, the party continues that much longer. So, yeah, I think it's a big win. And I think it kind of leads into this next little stretch of the schedule. Like, you've got Washington coming up. Washington is better than Vegas, in my opinion, but it's still a team the Bills should be able to beat. And if you go out there and you win again, and now you're 2-1, it's like, okay, really big test, but at home against Miami. And that could kind of dictate a lot of how the rest of the regular season plays out.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Now, Matt, you mentioned that you personally believe that Washington is a better team than Vegas.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what threats does Washington pose more so than the Raiders?
I think their defense is better than the Raiders, even though they just gave up a bunch of points to Denver. And I know that might not be indicative of, how good their defense actually is. I just think their defensive line has some playmakers that you have to be a little bit concerned about. And I also like the weapons. I mean, yeah, the Raiders have Devontae Adams. He's better than anybody that Washington has, but Washington does have Terry McLaurin, who's awesome, and they have Jahan Dotson, who I think is going to be really good. Also, I don't ever think you were super concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo lighting you up. Jimmy Garoppolo is a glorified game manager. Sam Howell is kind of just like, screw it. He's just going to throw it all over the place. Like, what does he have to lose? He's trying to play for his NFL career every time he goes out on the field. Jimmy Garoppolo is getting paid a bunch of money. Sam Howell is just trying to prove that he can play in this league. And I think sometimes those are the most dangerous opponents you have. It's not very unsimilar to like Taylor Heineke a couple years ago. Taylor Heineke isn't very good, but sometimes he goes out there and just makes ridiculous plays because, hey, why not? Give it a try.
I do believe that Washington's a better football team than Las Vegas.
Sure.
And they're first in their division because of it. But I kind of want to just ask you, Matt, a 1 o'clock game on Sunday, it feels favorable to the Bills, because it seems that they're a much better team. But at the same time, like, they're not under the lights against, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, New England, and the Giants later in the season. What do you think has to happen for the Bills to keep that, cool, collected, confident demeanor going against an opponent like that?
Well, they got to stack good games, right? You got to make it a trend. You got to not just have one good game. You got to have a couple good games. And then once you have a couple good games, then I think you can really start to build momentum. The beginning of the year is so weird because the good teams sometimes don't know they're good yet, and the bad teams don't know they're bad yet, right? Like, there's a lot of these teams that are 0-2, and they thought that they were going to be good. There's a lot of teams that are 2-0, like Washington, who maybe did not have great expectations going into the season. And then you get to 2-0, and you're like, okay, like, we've got some swagger here. Like, this isn't like, let's go out and do this. So I think for the Bills, if they're going to keep this momentum going, you can't take one step forward and 2 steps back. And for the Bills, with the window that they're in and the expectations, every loss is not 1 step back, it's 2 steps back. Now they're finally back to kind of like, okay, you're level. You're not as good as you would have liked, but at least you're still 1-1. Now you got to make sure, especially with 2 tough games after that coming up, Miami and Jacksonville, especially Jacksonville and London. Like, Miami's a better team than Jacksonville is right now, but traveling to London while they're already there, they've got playmakers that could be a potential problem for the Bills. So, like, you have to win these games against teams that you're better than, especially because the schedule gets so much harder down the stretch.
100%. Now, circling back to the Raiders game, obviously I did want to go over that a little bit and get your thoughts, Matt, about the winners and losers of the Bills. Like, there are a lot of winners, in my opinion, to go around. Not as many losers as last week. So, what are your thoughts on that? What players are you thinking about?
Well, I think winners, you start with Josh Allen, right? That's pretty obvious just because he was so dominant in this game. You also include Gabe Davis because there's been a lot of people wondering, can Gabe Davis be a viable second option? And he was. And you also lump in all of the running backs because they all contributed in some way, shape, or form. James Cook goes over 100 yards. Damian Harris is in the end zone. Latavius Murray is in the end zone. So I would say for winners, those are all pretty good starting points. Losers, there's really not anybody on the. I would say losers are people who thought that maybe Terrell Bernard wasn't going to be the linebacker for the next couple weeks, or that Spencer Brown wasn't the answer at right tackle. Like, those guys still have a lot to prove, but they're not making the changes after what they just did. Terrell Bernard has a game-changing interception. If they go down the field and they score there, and then the Bills are down 10-0 or 14-0, the game might look completely different. But he catches the batted ball from Rousseau, makes the big play, and then Spencer Brown did a great job with Max Crosby. Max Crosby is a guy. Like, that dude can make plays. And Spencer Brown, he got a little bit of help at times, but he held his own, and give him credit. That's a tough matchup. So now you go from Max Crosby to Chase Young. So I guess the losers in this situation are anybody who thought that those guys would not stick around at least for the next couple weeks.
I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. I think we all share that opinion that again, there are a lot of doubters this week. But again, a lot of them silenced. I'm very happy for that. And Matt, we know you're a busy guy, so we'll let you go. But we want to thank you again so much for being here. Thank you to our friends at WKBW as well for making this happen. And again, thanks for being here. This is a great opportunity. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. All right. So we'll, let's continue the conversation then, because I know we have some winners and losers of our own that we did want to go over. I mean, what are we thinking? Who's the first one on the list that Matt didn't mention?
I'll go first. I thought it was really poetic how he kind of threw out there that, the biggest loser are the people that thought that, I don't want to say like complete losers like we were talking about in preseason or week one after a horrific loss, but it is worrisome. Trey White, Poyer, and Hyde. It's almost like, is this surface rust, or is this, has it made it to the frame yet? And like, are the wheels kind of on the decline? That it's back-to-back weeks where I thought Poyer specifically looked slow in run support. I know Trey White hasn't broken 30 yet, but coming back from a major knee injury, it's his first full year back. I think he's just got to build some confidence up. And early in the game, he did, get kind of flamed by it.
And with Poyer too, I feel it's such a contrast from last season, where I think Poyer again. What was the record? It was like,
I think they were undefeated.
They were like basically.
They lost, besides that, I think the Cincy game, they
were basically undefeated with Poyer. And then again this season, it's a little quiet from that front, but again, there's a lot of speculation around what the reason could be. But I think our secondary, I would have to agree, I think had a little bit of a slow start.
Do we think that these problems have to do with the change of Sean McDermott being the defensive coordinator?
That's a good question. I don't know. What do you think?
So for me, it's kind of like this weighs into this. I thought Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver had a great game. Therefore, Bernard and Milano's jobs were a lot easier. And I think it kind of made Hyde and Poyer's job a little bit easier back there, but it still looked tough for them just to kind of get up to speed. Maybe it's for Hyde is you just haven't been at game speed besides the Jets game and now the Raiders game since week 2 of last season. And Poyer wasn't healthy last year. So maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But when those guys were out on an island in the last 2 games, it hasn't meant good things for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think there's a ton of players to talk about. I mean, again, the secondary, and we'll breeze through some names quick as well. I think Matt Milano definitely gets a huge mention. He's been great. 2 picks in 2 games from the linebacker is crazy.
I think he's been the best linebacker in the league through
he's
2 games.
So good. So again, I'm happy that we could get to talk about that. I did want to move into some other stuff that we want to get to today, and that does include the Bisons. Now, Buffalo Bisons did face off, I believe, against the Rail Riders this last week. And again, so they split another series, 3-3, with an opponent from Pennsylvania. The Herd was victorious on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, dropping the other games in their series. With the stalemate, no ground was gained during the playoff chase. So the Bisons remain 4 games back off of Durham, with 1 6-game series remaining in the regular season versus the Norfolk Tides. It would take an incredible swing for the Herd to obtain the last postseason spot, but we'll see what transpires come tomorrow and onward. Again, I know a ton of Bisons fans really we're digging for this playoff spot. So, and again, that's stuff not having Hunter here to elaborate. Hunter's our Bisons, our baseball guys. Exactly. Yeah. So worth mentioning though. And again, I think we did want to go over as well the UB football series. Now, we did have our amazing multimedia journalist, Kayla Sterner, write up a little bit about that. You can check that out on our website. But we will just breeze over it a little bit. It was a tough loss to
Very tough
Liberty.
loss.
What's that?
Very tough loss.
Very
Just
tough
a
loss. I
loss,
mean, now
very
they're
tough loss.
0-3,
Mhm.
and it's worth shouting out, by the way, that Buff State has
Only
has a
winless
better-
team in Buffalo.
Only winless team in Buffalo. And it's just
That is crazy.
Buff
That is
Buff State's
crazy.
won 5 games.
Buff
dude.
State has not won a game since October 2019. So the fact that they just pulled out a win like they did, double digits, I'm very proud of those boys.
Yeah. Now they do go and face the Raging Cajuns next weekend, and do they have a better chance against Louisiana?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think at this point, and you hate to say it, but I think at this point you got to start questioning the head coach, Mo Linguist.
Oh,
I
100%.
mean, where are these problems rooting from?
Well, I don't think I would get too critical against Lafayette because they were ranked just a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
But the loss against Liberty and the loss against an FCS team are two tough ones to kind of defend.
Yes. Now again, you have Cole Snyder throwing 29 for 51, 276 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like, I think Cole Snyder's not the problem here. I think again, it could be coaching. I think that's
If I'm not mistaken, I took a quick look at the stats before this game. They had 3 receivers that could have had 100. One of them was just short by 1 yard. So I think that definitely falls down to the defensive coordinator as well. Is there something with the personnel that they're putting on the field, or are they calling out the wrong plays, not putting them in the right positions?
Right. No, again, the Raging Cajuns, it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, especially they haven't even started conference play yet, and that's a whole other conversation. But UB looking just a little scary. But we'll close out things here. I say close out, but this is going to be a little bit longer. Let's take a preview about the Buffalo Bills facing the Washington Commanders football team. What do you like better? Do you like Commanders or football team? I like the Washington football team is kind of tough.
I like
don't
the
know.
Commanders.
Commanders.
I like having a
Football
team
is-
name. That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly
Like,
what I'm saying.
football team was unique, but everybody is a football team. So why just signify yourself as the Washington football team? We already know that.
I don't know. I love it. So we'll get started talking about some key matchups for you guys at home to watch. Lead us through that, Justin. What are we thinking? Who we see?
As Matt referenced before earlier on in the show, I think you're going to have to watch out for that defensive line. There's so much talent across that line, so many first round picks across that talent, or across that line. Rather, you have Chase Young, who kind of headlines back, unless you're thinking about Jonathan Allen. It's kind of one I'd maybe give the edge to Jonathan. Jonathan Allen's one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen in the entire league. And then you have Deron Payne and Montez Sweat. And we did see the Bills kind of had one of their best outings with the current O-line that they have now, but that's going to absolutely be a challenge against that defensive line.
Yeah, let's not forget about Chase Young as well, coming off the edge, 1.5 sacks off this first game back. And then we got Montez Sweat. He's out here leading the team with 2 forced fumbles as well. So I definitely think that the Bills O-line has a lot coming at them with a lot of solo tackles amongst those 4 people down low. They definitely have a lot of work in front of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a ton to be seen too, and I know even talking about like Scary Terry, who I mean, has he had the best start to the season?
No,
really,
no,
he really
I would say
hasn't.
so.
I know there's a lot of conversation with Jahan Dotson too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's been a little scary. So against our secondaries, I'm struggling a little bit. What are our odds of kind of holding their offense like that?
I think Matt described it very well. He's just loose, and that makes him dangerous. Like the expectation is he's either the starter or he's not.
Yeah.
And that's someone who's working for their paycheck.
Absolutely.
And
More of a gunslinger, too.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He's a gunslinger. They were super high on him in the offseason. I mean, I think Rivera even went back and said, if we could have started him earlier, like I can't believe we didn't.
Yeah, he did say that.
He just threw for
He's playing good football.
299 yards against a Denver defense. That's a
Yeah.
really, really good defense.
Right.
So I'm intrigued to see how Buffalo holds up against them and how Poyer and Hyde look.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a bounce back game because the vets have looked a little rusty.
I'll give you a matchup. How about the play calling of Eric Bieniemy versus Sean McDermott's defense? I mean, Bieniemy's kind of been in his bag recently, and maybe that's a testament to why Sam Howell's playing very well. That's a creative offense. We know that. He spent time with the Chiefs. This team, I mean, and you can say, Andy Reid was behind all that. Bieniemy had some sort of say, right? So, and then he comes in, and all of a sudden, this Commander offense looks eons better than it did last year. New
100%.
quarterback, granted. Oh, well.
Right.
But, I mean, this is going to be a serious challenge. It's not going to be a Mickey Mouse game. Hey, we know Sean McDermott can take over games with his defense, but I think it's going to be a serious chess match.
I love that term that you use, Mickey Mouse game.
Classic.
It's not going to be.
Another thing that we want to key into that game is just making sure that the defense is able to contain Brian Robinson the same way that they contain Josh Jacobs. Because I really love the way that they kept Josh Jacobs down to -2. That entire running back room for the Raiders only had 55 combined. So I would like to see another outing like that next week.
Yeah, you can see Matt Milano, Massa, Robinson.
3 picks in a row. That would be
Yeah.
that would
One
be
more guy I
nice.
wanted to say to keep an eye out on is Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie out of
He
Mississippi
should have
State.
picked. Yeah.
He's playing good football.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that came out of the NFL draft, kind of touted as a ball hawk, kind of similar to so a Trayvon Diggs kind of
Yeah.
guy, jumping the ball instead of rather playing the ball. But if Josh Allen has one of those bad days that he absolutely could have, unless he builds off his good performance here, the ball could be going the other way. Forbes is a ball hawk, and I think that's going to be a good challenge.
I agree. And hopefully for this next segment, we can bring in the aforementioned Kayla Sterner to talk about some keys to the game. Which, I mean, let's think about it a little bit. I mean, I think that Commanders have a good chance of beating the Bills here. I know they're 2-0, and like, is there a chance that there's an upset, or what are we thinking about that part?
I think there's absolutely a chance. I don't want to call it an upset. I don't, because they're an undefeated football team.
That's fair.
And at the end of the day, winning 2 games in a row is hard for any team.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills dropped their season opener, obviously, and look where we are.
That's true.
And of course, they played Arizona and Denver, who weren't very respected last season.
Yeah.
But either way, it's tough to win the NFL,
Yeah.
and it's tough to win with someone who's basically a rookie.
Yeah, I agree. And welcome, Kayla, to the show once again. I know we haven't had you on. That was a couple episodes ago, I think. So
Yeah.
welcome back. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts about some keys to the game for the Bills to win against these Commanders?
I mean, I think the Bills' O-line just really needs to stay tight and give Josh Allen time to get down the field, and also give the running back trio time to do what they did this week. They were really strong. I thought they honestly showed a lot of promise to be a lethal trio on the ground for the Bills. So I think if that can stay strong, they look good.
I agree with you. I think, like I said, I think Cook is so dangerous, and I don't think we talk about him enough when we're talking about our winners. But that man runs like he hates the ground. It is so
That's
good.
what I say about Pacheco. But
Yeah,
if we're
Pacheco
going to
too,
give
yeah.
flowers about Cook, I want to give him to Justin, because Justin's been on the
Oh,
hype
yeah.
train for
for
James
a while
Cook.
now. Yeah,
I mean, it's just like the Bills haven't had a playmaker like him out of the backfield in so long. And not even to mention that he can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long has it been since the Bills have had a receiving back? Now, the thing is, I scouted James Cook when he came out of Georgia. And
Scouted.
oh yeah, I'm serious. I got
hold
mock drafts and
on,
everything.
clipboard.
All right.
Here's the thing: he had serious breakaway speed, and I saw a lot of this last week, and it frustrated the hell out of me. James Cook has not one elusive bone in his body.
Ugh.
Oh my God, the narrative died quickly. The narrative died so quickly this season, or this game rather. 120, what is that? 123 yards on the ground, 36 through the air. Yeah, take that and shove it in your mouth. Also, I want to give some flowers to Latavius Murray.
Yes, thank you.
And Damien Harris, quite frankly, because it's been a while since the Bills have had kind of this thunder lightning backfield.
Yeah, well, I was surprised when they had Cook running to start, and then they just Latavius Murray every drive. That was really interesting to me, because I think, again, when most NFL teams, you think, okay, it's just a 1-2 back, like they don't circulate 3 running backs the same. So I thought that was really interesting for what they did.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome too. Damian Harris had a kick return, and he didn't do too much. He went straight upfield, and I think it was like for 40 yards.
40.
Is that something we could see looking forward? I don't know. I'm excited.
That's why when we were mentioning winners and losers, I kind of thought about Deontay Hardy as a loser. We haven't seen much of him.
No,
And he got the contract in the offseason. Even Trent Sherfield, we haven't seen a lot of him either.
Well, they gave Hardy some looks over the past 2 games at the line of scrimmage, and that Isaiah McKenzie role. But
Yeah, that is true. Week 1, we did see a lot of Deontay Hardy with those wide receiver screens.
Yeah, and I think I want to wrap this segment up by getting your final score predictions once again. Starting with Kayla, I do want to know what you're thinking. Who's winning this one?
Oh man.
Or I guess we
Okay.
figure it out.
I'm definitely putting the Bills on top, but I do think it is going to be a closer game. I don't know. I just feel like that's how the Bills go. They go back and forth sometimes. So I see it being 17-4, but the Bills still up on top.
Yeah.
Or
Fair take.
17-14.
What do you think?
This is a tough one. Obviously, I got the Bills winning this, but it's not going to be an easy win. I think they're going to win 20-17.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Vegas has the opening line at Buffalo -6.5. I mean, that's smaller than I thought, but I don't know. I think Josh Allen just made a molehill out of the Vegas defense, and a momentum building player like that. Like a 31-17, like a respectable close game to start, and I just think the Bills pull away in the second half.
Yeah, I was going to go 28-17 Bills.
Sure.
Because, I mean, the Commanders' offense isn't bad enough to where they're only going to put up 10 points like the Raiders. They've got some creativity on that team. So I think they're going to get some points. But I think kind of what Colton says, they're going to ride this hot hand. Once Josh Allen gets hot, it's hard to stop him.
Exactly. I've always said he's a rhythm quarterback, too. I think, exactly. You get him on the field over and over making plays, he does not stop. It's crazy. I'll second your 31-17. I think the same thing. I think it's going to be, Josh Allen's not, or the Bills' offense isn't going to put as much points up on this Commanders defense as they did against the Raiders defense. But again, this offense is looking hard to stop now that it's kind of started picking back up. So I think that's about all the time we have on the show today.
Yeah.
Again, special thank you to Matt Beauvais for joining us and
sir.
our friends at WKBW. If you do like what we do here, check out BuffaloSportsInsider.com and check out our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Did I say TikTok already? Something like that. But yeah, check out everything there so you can see our content. Thank you for joining us. It's KJ Zelzinski, Justin Cejak, Colton Pankowitz, Deshaun Francois. We'll catch you again sometime soon. But until then, stay safe, be good to each other. Have a great week, guys. Take care.